Easy people. Welcome to another video. Welcome to another welcome to another video. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're doing great, guys. Good evening. I hope you are having a great day. And yeah, man, obviously some for another video to talk about some football a bit. Just go away from work, school and stuff like that. Just listen to football. Talk about football. Please, guys, continue to support the channel if you can. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Please push the thumbs up button to like the video, and also please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. Now, guys, obviously we had some cracking games this weekend. Like the game between Liverpool and Arsenal yesterday was an absolute cracker. Great game of football. And yeah, since that was like a big game, a Big Six game, I'm gonna make a video of that game. Like I'll basically put it in a separate video of its own, and then I'll talk about the other ones on another video. So yeah, man, cracking game between Arsenal and Liverpool. Obviously, Arsenal winning 3-2. Arsenal had a great start. And how about Gabriel Martinelli? Hey, Martinelli has really stepped up this season. The first time I actually watched Martinelli play football for Arsenal was in the Europa League. So I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, Martinelli was playing for Arsenal in the Europa League. And I saw this kid. He was quick. He had quick feet. He had trickery. And he was a really good player. And then obviously, he wasn't a feature in the starting 11 because Arsenal now, compared to 3 years ago, were totally different. But he's gradually been improving. He's grown in stature. The pace has always been there. The trickery has always been there. But I think what he has added in his game is the end product. He's added finishing to his game. He's added assisting to his game. He's creating chances for his teammates. He's scoring chances himself. And then basically, I think the only thing that is stopping him from kind of going to that elite level at this moment in time, when you talk about the best wingers in the world, is consistency as well. Even though he started the season on fire and has been consistent since the start of this season. And then I also think sometimes he holds on to the ball too much. So sometimes he overdoes things. So when he has the ball, he tries to he does one trick. Then he tries to do another one. But at the top level in the Premier League, the fast-paced Premier League, you need to release the ball a lot quicker. So you can't go on and try and trick 3 people all at once. You have to release the ball. I think as soon as he kind of polishes those parts in his game, he's going to be up there with the best wingers in the Premier League and the best wingers in the world. I thought he was the man of the match last night in that game between them and Liverpool, between Arsenal and Liverpool. And then I thought Bukayo Saka played well as well. Obviously, he had 2 goals in the game. But I thought his overall play was good. I thought Thomas Partey was brilliant in the middle of the park. I thought Xhaka was making those late runs into the box. And as a result, he was kind of causing a confusion on the Liverpool defenders, whether should they stay with the winger, which was Martinelli or Saka, or should they stay with Jesus? And Jesus was also floating around, going to the left, going to the middle, taking the ball in midfield, driving with the ball towards the defenders, and Xhaka was just floating between the Liverpool midfield and the Liverpool defense, and he was making those late runs into the box, and it was causing a lot of confusion on the Liverpool defenders. So I thought it was a cracking game from Arsenal. I thought it was a great game. Tomiyasu had a great game at left back. He had Salah in his pocket all day, and Salah didn't really do much. He looked out of sorts, to say the least. Who were the other guys playing? I thought Odegaard, obviously he had the assist for the Martinelli goal. I thought he was decent as well. Who else are these guys for Arsenal? I thought Ben White played relatively well as well. I thought Saliba played well. Gabriel, who is obviously the partner of Saliba, I think if there's one weakness in the Arsenal defense at the moment, it's through Gabriel. I think there's an error in him. Sometimes he's rash. Sometimes he's late in the tackle. And he was lucky to escape without giving away a penalty against Liverpool in that game. I get all the referees talking about the proximity or like the fact that like he had no time to react to it in a natural position. Other defenders in the Premier League, when they are trying to defend a cross, they put their arms behind their backs because they obviously don't want to give away a handball. Gabriel was basically like he was trying to block a shot and he had lifted his arm. Now, I don't think that's a natural position in terms of you trying to block a cross because his arms should be like, obviously, I've never played football at the top level, right? But I've seen those kinds of decisions given in football. Like, actually, in the same weekend of Premier League fixtures, Newcastle fans are going to know this. I saw the highlights of the Newcastle game between them and Brentford. And a penalty was given against Dan Burn, who's the Newcastle defender. Now, what Dan Burn had done basically is that he was jumping. And as a result of him jumping, his arm was up like this. And there was a Brentford player behind him. And that Brentford player basically headed the ball towards Dan Burn. And then the ball struck Dan Burns' arm. And it was regarded as, well, it was deemed to be a foul and a handball. Now, I don't know what the difference is between that situation and the Gabriel situation. Because Gabriel is doing exactly the same thing. In that he's jumping and instead of like basically he has his arm up like this. Now, if you're going to deem the one from Dan Burn a penalty, then I don't see a reason why you should not deem the one from Gabriel as a penalty. So I thought that there's a lack of consistency there with regards to the referees and them giving a foul or giving a penalty. So I thought Liverpool were unlucky in that situation. And then also the penalty that Gabriel Jesus got from basically Thiago making contact with his foot, I thought that was soft because basically Thiago is stretching to try and get the ball and then Jesus gets his touch on the ball and there's the slightest amount of contact between him and Thiago and the ref deems it as a penalty. Obviously Jesus screams and he goes down, which any striker is going to do because they want to get a penalty. So by no means am I saying Gabriel Jesus is a cheat or anything like that because every striker is going to do that because they want a penalty. But I thought it was a poor decision from the referee, Michael Oliver, who is actually one of the best referees in the Premier League, if not the best referee in the Premier League. I don't think he's a bad referee. That's not what I'm saying. But I thought that was a poor decision. Like, I thought VAR should do something to kind of like tell the referee that there's not enough contact in that situation to deem it as a foul or to deem it as a penalty. Because this is also another confusion between people. People like saying this thing that like outside the box, that's a foul and therefore it should be a penalty. And that's the wrong way of looking at it. The bar for a penalty is higher than the bar for a foul outside the box. Why? Because a penalty has the potential to decide a game. Arsenal won that game through that penalty. So I didn't think that was a foul. I thought Jesus bought the foul and obviously he got the foul. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I thought, nevertheless, like Arsenal deserved to win that game. Even though, obviously, the penalty, as I'm saying, that I don't think it was an actual penalty. I'm just trying to reach for my bottle here, guys. Okay, there it is. I'm sorry there. But yeah, I didn't think that was a penalty. But I thought the result was a fair result because I thought Arsenal deserved to win the game. And then on the side of Liverpool, like, remember I said, guys, in my video when I was previewing this game, please check it out if you haven't done so. In my video where I was previewing this game, I said if Arsenal beat Liverpool, I am willing to change my top 4 predictions that I made at the beginning of the season. So at the beginning of the season, I had City to finish top, I had Liverpool to finish second, I had Tottenham to finish third, and I had Arsenal to finish fourth. Those were my predictions at the beginning of the season. Based on how Arsenal have performed so far this season and them beating Liverpool convincingly, outplaying Liverpool, and okay, not necessarily outplaying because Liverpool actually gave a good account of themselves in that game, but deserving to win after putting on a performance against Liverpool, I said I'm going to change my predictions and I'm putting Arsenal as my second pick. As my pick for second. I'm still, like, even though really Liverpool are pushing me to the brink, but I'm still keeping my top 4 as it is. even though Graham Potter has actually started getting the tune out of the Chelsea players. So I think definitely, and Eric Ten Hag is getting a tune out of the Man United players. So I think most definitely there is a chance that Chelsea and Man United could make the top four instead of the clubs that I actually said are going to be in the top four. But based on how Arsenal are playing at this moment in time, if they are able to keep their players fit, if they strengthen in the January transfer window to kind of try and add some squad depth to their team, because the second half of the season is going to be difficult, because they're going to be in the latter stages of the Europa League, because they're going to be competing in the Premier League week in, week out, because there's going to be the FA Cup, there's going to be the Carabao Cup. So I think they should try and strengthen their squad so that they can have a deeper squad in the January transfer window. If they do those things and they don't get major injuries to their key players, I am picking Arsenal to finish second. Not to win the title, because I think Manchester City, obviously I support City, so you might say I'm biased, but based on what I've seen from Manchester City in previous seasons and what I've seen this season, I just think Manchester City are too good for Arsenal to compete against. Like, I think City, with their team, are capable of winning 15 to 20 games in a row this season. And I actually think City are capable of going unbeaten the whole season. And the reason why I say that, obviously, we could get beaten in the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup or the Champions League. I'm talking about the Premier League. And the reason why I say that is because, as a City fan, even when we go 2-0 down, I'm not actually worried. And the reason why I'm not worried is because we've got Haaland. And Haaland always gives us a chance, because if you have players like De Bruyne and Grealish and Foden and Mahrez and Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, those guys are always going to create chances. They can have an awful game and they might attempt 50 passes and get only 5 passes completed. There's going to be that one pass that they will get right. And if you have a man like Haaland, who is your striker and who is the person you rely upon in terms of finishing those chances, 9 times out of 10, he's going to finish a chance and he's going to score. So I just think, like, for example, the game we played against Newcastle when we drew 3-3, and the game we played against Crystal Palace and we won the game 4-2. I think both those games last season we would have lost, because in those games we did not play well, but we ended up getting a draw and a win in the Newcastle game and the Crystal Palace game because we have Haaland. And Haaland always gives you a chance because of the level of ruthlessness and the level of, like, lethal finishing that he has in his locker. So I think City are a lot better than Arsenal based on quality of players and also quantity of quality players. So the squad depth of Manchester City, I think, is a lot better than Arsenal at this moment in time. Like, even though we have, at the moment, Calvin Phillips injured, when Calvin Phillips comes back and he's like fit, Rodri could get injured and we can replace him with Calvin Phillips. Now, Calvin Phillips was the player of the year for the England national team last year, and was the player of the was in the team of the tournament of the Euros last year. So we have that luxury of taking that player from our bench and replacing our first choice defensive midfielder if our first choice defensive midfielder is injured. Whereas Arsenal, if their first choice defensive midfielder is injured, like, obviously it's Thomas Partey. If he's injured, then they're going to bring on Sambi Lokonga from the bench, who's a young lad and who does not have the experience and capability of playing at the top level in the Premier League as of yet. So, and with regards to Gabriel Jesus as well, if Jesus gets injured, I don't see how Arsenal cope in terms of getting the same level of performance from Nketiah, because I think Nketiah is a good player, but I don't think he's a great finisher. I don't think he's clinical enough. I don't think he's lethal. Even though you wouldn't call Jesus a lethal finisher or a clinical finisher, but I think Jesus gives you the dimension he offers or he brings to the side, like Arsenal can't replace. Whereas City have players that are used to playing a false nine system should Haaland get injured. They also have Julian Alvarez, who is a great finisher, and if you have watched him in his game so far for City, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Or if you watch him back in his days in Argentina, he's also a great finisher, even though there are some things that he needs to polish as well in his game. So I just think City have way more quality than Arsenal. Unless something drastic, let's say in the World Cup happens. So when I say something drastic, I mean Foden gets injured, De Bruyne gets injured, Bernardo Silva gets injured, Cancelo gets injured. Unless something like that happens, I don't see how Arsenal are going to win the league over Manchester City. So I think the only chance that someone else but Manchester City is going to win the league is if something drastic, either in the World Cup or in the Premier League, happens. And when I say something drastic, I mean something drastic in terms of injuries. Key injuries to key players for City. I think that's the only way that anyone can challenge City for the league. However, next season, I think if Arsenal do the right business in the January transfer window and they do the right business in the summer next year, I fully back them to compete for the league, because I think they are showing that they can perform at the top level and they are putting consistent performances at this moment in time. So yeah, I think this season is too soon for Arsenal to challenge for the league, but I think from next season they can kick on and they can start challenging for the league. But I think it's crucial for them to make that Champions League, because if they make the Champions League, then they're going to be able to recruit top players to their side, and when they recruit top players, then they're going to be able to compete with City in the Premier League. So yeah, that's my opinion of Arsenal in terms of them being title favourites. And obviously, let's just talk briefly about the other side of the coin, which is Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool have started this season on a bad note. I think I actually heard something on the radio today saying that it's the worst start to Liverpool's season since 10 years ago, which was 2012. So that kind of tells you in a nutshell that they have not been good so far this season. Obviously Trent is not in form at this moment in time. He was at fault for that for that second goal Arsenal scored through Saka, because Henderson is defending Martinelli. Now, Trent is the one who sees the picture, because Henderson is focused on Martinelli and is focused on the ball. Trent has the picture. So Trent can do one of two things in that situation. He either overlaps, when I say overlaps, he either goes past Henderson and he tells Henderson, so he communicates with Henderson that I'm going to overlap, make sure that he doesn't cut inside. So send him to the bar line and I'll take care of him when he goes to the bar line. Or he tells Henderson that go with him to the bar line and I'll cover him if he cuts inside. He does not communicate in that situation, and as a result, he overlaps, and because he hasn't communicated with Henderson, Henderson is still looking at the ball, and then Martinelli is able to just cut in and just put the cross in the box. Whereas if Henderson had if Trent had communicated with Henderson, send him towards the bar line. If he had a shout to Henderson, send him towards the bar line. Then Henderson would know, okay, do not let him cut inside his right foot. If I don't let him cut inside his right foot, he's going to go towards the bar line. And if he goes towards the bar line, Trent is there. He's going to cover him. But then because he doesn't communicate in that situation, he then ends up going over Henderson. And Henderson also goes in the same direction. Martinelli cuts inside. He puts an easy cross in the box. And Saka is able to score an easy goal. So I thought that was poor communication from the Liverpool defense. And it was a poor goal to concede from them. And obviously another thing about Liverpool is that Trent, I think, got injured last night in the game. I think Luis Diaz also got injured. Now, I heard from some people that Luis Diaz had a leg brace after the game, and he was on crutches. Now, I don't know how serious his injury is, whether it's a precautionary measure that he's on a leg brace or he's on crutches. But obviously, it doesn't look too good for Liverpool at the moment in terms of their injuries. Because obviously, Trent and Luis Diaz are part of their first team and they start. So, I think that's bad news for Jurgen Klopp. And also, I think with regards to the team selection yesterday from Liverpool, obviously, they have not been playing well at this moment in time. And I kind of don't blame Klopp for kind of changing the personnel. But they did struggle in the midfield in that game in terms of Arsenal were transitioning a lot, especially in that first half and in the second half. They were transitioning a lot and they were counter-attacking Liverpool a lot. Now, a player that usually stops counter-attacks is your defensive midfielder. And both Henderson and Thiago are not defensive midfielders. They're midfield players. And yes, you can tell them to work hard and to graft, but they don't have that awareness of being a defensive midfielder and being able to kind of have the know-how of kind of like stopping those counter-attacks at source. And I thought they struggled with that a lot last night against Arsenal. And then I also thought offensively, Liverpool did not click. So they were not in the same wavelength offensively. Like the amount of times that Liverpool had the ball and they were attacking Arsenal and they did not make the right final pass, or they did not make the right pass before the final pass is due. I thought too many times that happened. And obviously Salah is out of sorts at the moment. He's not like, he doesn't look potent. I think he only has 2 goals so far this season, and by his standards, that's a major drop. Because last season, I remember when last season started, a lot of people were kind of, including myself, were kind of saying Salah at this moment in time, in terms of his form and the level he's playing at, he's currently the best player in Europe, because he was playing in the best league in the world in terms of competition, and he was playing at the top level, assisting, getting goals, and all of that stuff. He obviously fell off last season. I think the AFCON tournament kind of took a lot out of him, as well as not qualifying, like his country not qualifying for the World Cup. I think that kind of took a lot out of his system. But he just doesn't look potent at this moment in time. I thought Darwin Núñez had a good game. He obviously scored the first goal for Liverpool, and I thought his movement was relatively good. Even though Liverpool, as I'm saying, that they simply did not have, they were not in the same wavelength offensively. They did not create enough opportunities. They had too many situations where they did not make the right final pass. They did not make the right pass before the final pass. Like everything seems to be off with them at this moment in time. Apart from their 2 goals, which were well-worked goals actually, and were great goals from their point of view, apart from that, they never really created loads more chances. And that's unlike Liverpool, obviously, because we're so used to Liverpool kind of playing at this high intensity, creating chance after chance after chance, and overwhelming the opposition. I thought yesterday, Arsenal fully deserved to win the game, and they created the bulk of the opportunities, even though I don't think the penalty that Arsenal scored to win the game was not a penalty. Liverpool were under the ropes at that moment in time. Arsenal were pressing, they were pushing, and Liverpool were just scrambling in terms of trying to clear their lines, and eventually they obviously conceded the penalty, even though I don't really think it was a penalty. So I thought it was a cracking game of football, man, between Arsenal and Liverpool. It certainly lived up to the billing. It certainly did not disappoint. It was a 5-goal thriller. Great game of football. And yeah, man, I've been really impressed with Arsenal so far this season. Even though I still don't think they're going to challenge for the league. I don't think that they are capable of that as of yet. Come next season, I think if they make the right signings in the January transfer window and the summer transfer window next summer, I think they have a very good chance of, in fact, I would bet my bottom dollar on it that they are going to challenge for the league title next season. Based on what I'm seeing from them at this moment in time. But obviously Liverpool at this moment in time, all they need to focus on is to kind of like try and make sure that they get that top 4, because it's going to be very difficult for them to recruit players if they don't get top 4. And I think like some people are saying Liverpool are already out of the title race and whatnot. I have to say Liverpool don't look like they can mount a title challenge at this moment in time. They simply don't look like they can do that. However, I am going to say it's a long season. We're only 9 games into the season, even though this past week was match week 10. There is that game, and actually there's 2 games that Liverpool have not played. They actually have a game in hand on Arsenal, on City, I think, and on all the other clubs that are currently in the top 4 or that are currently above Liverpool at this moment in time. Because you're going to remember that their game against Chelsea, that was due to play on Sunday, on the Sunday before the Monday when Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth was laid to rest. That game was postponed between them and Chelsea. So they have that game in hand. And then there's also match week 7 or match week 6 that was also postponed. So I still think it is a bit too early to kind of like rule them out of the title race or say they are not going to make top 4. But based on how they performed so far this season, they just don't look the part. And I think they just have to try and make sure that they make that top four. They have to try and get some consistency, because at this moment in time, they are out of sorts. They look like a shambles, to be honest. Defensively, they don't look like they can keep clean sheets. They're always conceding goals. They're always conceding the first goal in the game. They conceded in 57 seconds yesterday. And offensively, they're not clicking as well. So yeah, it remains to be seen whether they're gonna like make that top four. But I would still back them to make top four. It's too early for me to kind of rule them out of top four. So, yeah, man, I think that brings us to the end of the video, guys. I thought it was a cracking game yesterday between Liverpool and Arsenal. It certainly didn't disappoint. And, yeah, guys, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that support. And also, please push the thumbs up button to like the video. And please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. And, yeah, guys, thank you for watching the video, man. I really appreciate it. And see you in the next video, where I'll be reviewing the games, the other games of that we're playing this past weekend. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Appreciate the support and enjoy your evening.